afternoon. I'm Kamal Jadidi, a professor of marketing and one of the founders of EC Africa, our program, what is called Enterprise Competitiveness in Africa. And I'm delighted to open this event and welcome our special guest, Tony Elumelu, and his delegation from the Tony Elumelu Foundation. We are grateful for Tony to spend some time with us today, and also thankful for the TEF, his foundation, to make this event possible. This event is organized by the Chazen Institute, which I see as our bridge that connects us with global business leaders and policymakers, like events like this. We also thank the Lang Center for Entrepreneurship and the Africa Business Club at the Business School for partnering with us to make this event happen. I would like to take this moment to welcome our EC Africa participants who are here for a week to complete their 10-month training in business and management. They are here for a week to get some immersion experience at Columbia, in New York City, and present their continuous improvement project that they worked hard on it for the last 10 months. This program, we are proud of it because it is in line with Tony's philosophy of Africapitalism, which basically say that if you want, to develop Africa socially and economically, you should invest in the private sector and entrepreneurs. Those are the key stakeholders in this task. So the program basically stays 10 months, and as I said, we give them an executive MBA training in this period. Our students consult for them. Actually, we created a whole course called the Africa Lab, and faculty are supposed to talk to them or consult for them for 18 hours, and they have like weekly coaches to get them to where they want to get, that as was stated early on in the admission process. So we are happy to have you here, candidate of EC Africa, and good luck with your graduation on Friday. I want to say also that Africa is of greatest interest to our student body here. They are always present in events like this. They consult with African companies as part of the Pangea program. They travel to African countries to kind of learn about the ecosystem and the business ecosystem there. They also run annual conferences called the Africa Economic Forum on a yearly basis, and this year it is the 18th time that is run. So it's time to introduce our special guest. I'm honored to introduce Tony Elumelu. He's one of Africa's leading investors and philanthropists. His accomplishments are quite extensive indeed. No wonder why he was named as in the Time 100 as the most influential, people in the world, and more recently as Time 100 Impact Awards. Please allow me to highlight just a few of his accomplishments. You could spend a whole day going over them. He's the founder and chairman of Hares Holdings. It's a family investment company that is dedicated to improving lives and transforming Africa through long-term investment in strategic sectors like power, energy, healthcare, and technology. He's also the chairman of United Bank of Africa, a bank that he developed from scratch almost, based on my reading, to now the bank is having like 21 million or more than 21 million customers and is present in more than 20 countries in Africa and elsewhere in the world. Tony also chairs the largest quoted conglomerate called Transcorp. Two of its subsidiaries are Transcorp Power, which is the major or the leading utility company in Nigeria, and Transcorp Hotels, which is the leading hospitality brand in Nigeria. In 2010, he created the Tony Elumelu Foundation with a $100 million commitment. Since inception, this foundation has done wonderful things. They had funded over 15,000 entrepreneurs and created a digital ecosystem of over 1 million Africans. Professor Tommaso Porzio actually is working with the foundation to evaluate their impact on Africa. This fireside chat will be led by Ijoma Ejimadu. She's our first-year MBA student at Columbia Business School. Looking at her bio, I kind of see it as she's very passionate about entrepreneurship and helping entrepreneurs, especially women. The first thing she did, she created Ivory Ari to help African women with capacity building and make sure that they succeed as entrepreneurs. Prior to Columbia, she spent several months in Lagos, where she explored the growing tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem there. And she was useful to the founders by connecting them to talents as well as venture capital. She also worked at Uhuru Investment Partners, a West African PE firm. She developed their gender lens investment strategy, and she was instrumental at attracting $20 million in funding from the IFC to kind of fund SMEs in Africa. She's a bright student. She's a Dream VC Fellow, Consortium Fellow, and Forte Fellow. She graduated with a chemical degree from A&M University with magna cum laude. Thank you all, and it's time to welcome Tony Elumelu and his delegation to Columbia Business School.
Thank you so much for the introductions, and good afternoon, Mr. Tony. We're so excited to have you here at CBS. We are all excited to hear your thoughts on African development, especially when it comes to youth empowerment and entrepreneurship. But before we jump into that, I would love for you to share with us what your childhood was like and what was your first exposure to philanthropy?
I'm very honored to be with you this afternoon in this great institution of learning and development. And thanks, Prof, for your very kind and generous introduction. And pleasure to be with you on stage. I said to her, it's like we plan to dress in black. So good to see you, and quite impressed with your accomplishments.
Thank you.
It is people like you on the continent that give us hope that the future of our continent will be bright and brighter than it is today. So first, my childhood. I come from a modest background. I was born and bred in Africa, schooled in Africa, started working in Africa, and a bit of living or success in Africa. But living in Africa, seeing developmental challenges and where we are as a continent has driven the passion in me that we need more successful people on our continent, that we need to invest and prioritize our young ones, And so when you talk about my first encounter with philanthropy, I would say it is my first job, so to speak, because that was a demonstration of what we do today. The fact that the intersection of luck and success. And so I was fortunate to work under a leader who saw in me as a young person some potential and opportunities that I did not see. And that was what catalyzed and helped me to get to where I am today. So my philanthropy, or the need, or what drove the desire and aspiration to do what we're doing today started as far back as then. Because I kept telling myself, if this man did not give me the opportunity, I would not be who I am today, where I'm at today. And so what similar opportunities am I creating for others who are coming behind? And that was why and how it all started. At some point in my career, I thought it was now time to do that. And I call it, my colleagues and I would say, it's democratization of luck. Time to democratize luck. Time to identify others who might have been, or I, in my situation as I was then, and giving such people the wing to fly, the opportunity to express themselves, prove their concept, and start the journey of their life journey from that perspective.
Thank you for that. One of the interviews, you'd mentioned a lot about entrepreneurship as a catalyst for economic development. And that's kind of what, the Tony Elumelu Foundation is built around. Can you tell us about the moment you made the decision to start TEF? And then what were some of your challenges in understanding what the gaps young African entrepreneurs actually faced?
Okay, so let me go back so we contextualize it for proper understanding. I started, as I said earlier, very early on in my career, in my life, and I grew fairly rapidly, and I became CEO at a very young age, at the age of 34. And at 42, we orchestrated the biggest merger to date in Sub-Saharan Africa of the combination of United Bank for Africa and Standard Trust Bank, a bank we started from ashes, so to speak, to a top level in the industry, and brought UBA, which was the third largest bank in the country at the time, and Standard Trust Bank, fifth largest bank, together. And at 47, I retired from active day-to-day banking CEO responsibility. And it was, what next? And I felt that I should use the remaining part of my life to dedicate it to humanity, to help, I used as the opportunity to start the democratization of luck. I thought it was time to help identify young Africans. In my career, looking at my own life and everything, I've come to realize that luck was so critical. Being at the right place at the right time, and having access to mentors, having people who can help and hold you. When you make mistakes, correct you. People will give you the opportunity to make mistakes and prove your ideas, etc. And I wanted to do that at a scale that will create the desired impact, and also help do that across Africa, not just in one country. And that was how we started the Tony Elumelu Foundation. That was the motivation for it. To say, okay, the future of Africa belongs to our young ones. Two, if Steve Jobs were an African, would they have succeeded? The other Steve Jobs in Africa that we should identify, give opportunity, so that collectively we can all be involved in developing Africa. And then how, the 21st century, how do I want to be remembered? Is it by the money I have in my bank accounts, or by the lives I'm able to touch, and in a sustainable fashion, so that the journey to developing Africa is not a journey undertaken by just a few people, but we democratize and make many people involved in that journey. So that was why my wife and I, we decided to endow the foundation with $100 million US so that we help to identify every year 1,000 young Africans, train them, 12-week training, give them appointments for them, and at the end of the training, give them $5,000 non-refundable seed capital so that we can start the journey of building our own seed jobs out of Africa.
Yes.
Out of Africa. So that is the motivation, that is the purpose for the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Thank you for sharing that. And you are famously known for giving $5,000 checks.
No more.
But I did want to understand, what did you see was one of the things that African entrepreneurs struggled with the most through the training programs?
No, quite a lot of things. But first is, I say to people, capital is important, but not everything. And when you get capital, if you don't know how to use capital, you'll not succeed. So training, that 12-week MBA is very important for the success of African entrepreneurs. Equally important is the appointment of mentors. People make mistakes. All of us have made mistakes in our careers before and our businesses. So you need somebody who has been there before to advise you, to tell you, no, this is it, handhold you, etc. But most importantly, and that ties into the philosophy of Africapitalism, that intersection of doing well and doing good, that intersection of public and private partnership, that creating the environment that enables young Africans to succeed. If the environment is stifling and not enabling, even if you give $1 billion to entrepreneurs, they will not succeed. In societies, environments, countries where entrepreneurs are in quote like their own local government areas, meaning they have to generate their own power, they have to look for storage facilities, security, transportation, etc. The water, there's a limit to how much they can succeed. So that aspect, I think, is the most significant thing that must be fixed if we are committed and serious about the development of Africa through entrepreneurship. We must create the enabling environment that will allow entrepreneurs to do well. So we preach that it's beyond our control, but in our engagement with governments, advocacy, etc., and we stress that point. It's very, very, very important. So I would say that is even more important than capital.
And so you kind of alluded to this. So I personally spent the last year in Lagos, again, learning about the tech and entrepreneurial community. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that running a business in Nigeria is very difficult. So a lot of Nigeria and many other African nations face issues of infrastructure and logistics and insecurity. And I guess, and you've kind of mentioned this, but I want to get your personal philosophy on what the role of the private and public sectors are within the African context?
So first is, let's start with the public sector. Yeah. As I said earlier, government must provide the infrastructure, the enabling environment. Because if you have the right environment, even private capital will help to fix infrastructure deficits. So the issue is creating the enabling environment, government. And government must embrace the private sector as partners. There's that suspicion between private and public that should go. Private government is good government, supposed to improve standard of living for its people. Private sector, we have now realized self-enlightened interest. If people don't do well, you don't do well as private sector leaders. So there's a sync there. And I think the private sector, in my viewpoint, they understand the point and they are moving in the right direction. But government needs to move faster or equally at the same pace. Create the right environment, right policy regime, right macroeconomic environment, so that private sector will blossom. And realizing that the success of private sector to a large extent is equal to the success of government. If private sector does not succeed, government doesn't succeed. Government per se don't create jobs. They don't have the capacity to create jobs. It is the private sector that creates jobs. So you must incentivize and encourage the private sector to succeed so that jobs can be created for your people. For the private sector, I also preach this to my contemporary friends and peers that for too long we condemn everything government. Those of us who are private sector on the continent, we need to also stand up and do something. And what we do through the Tony Elumelu Foundation is a demonstration of that. That is not just about government, that we also can play our own part. And even our investment, which is again the heart of Africapitalism, We make investments that help to catalyze economic prosperity. We invest in critical sectors that we need to drive development on the continent. Infrastructure, access to electricity. If we don't have improved access to electricity on the continent, there's a limit to how far we can go. If we don't invest in our young people, young entrepreneurs. So what we do through the Elumelu Foundation is an investment in young Africans. And what we do when we invest in electricity is also trying to help create the right environment. So the private sector, we have a role to play. We need to, and we also, like, when I come to America or engage with my friends outside of Africa, I tell them that in the 21st century, we have time-tested approaches to the development of Africa in a sustainable fashion. Come together, let's team up. There was a time private sector leaders on the continent were just agents and rent seekers. So this changed. We have very strong indigenous African private sector leaders. But our success should not be calibrated or measured by the profit we make or the money we have in our bank accounts. Our success should be measured by the money we have, the success we have or make of our business, but more important, or equally important, the lives we're able to touch, so that in sync with government, with our development partners, multilateral agents, all of us can work together to power Africa to prosperity and have a new Africa where we give hope, economic hope and opportunities to our young people. We must realize and embrace the fact that to them is where the future of our continent lies. And if we're truly committed to developing Africa, it must start with prioritizing our young ones, encouraging them, bringing our women into mainstream of economic activities, and then making sure that we hold our leaders accountable.
Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned a little bit about your friends and your peers that you chat with that are outside of Africa, and leads me to a question around partnerships. And on the back of a UNGA this year, your foundation just announced a $20 million foundation partnership with the United States African Development Foundation. Congratulations to your team.
Thank you.
That is huge. So I guess, like, how have you managed these strategic partnerships, and then how do they support your mission of empowering young Africans on the continent?
First, let me say that the partnership we signed with USADF, and like the one we also signed with the UNCDF, they are not the first partnerships we've had. We've even had bigger ones. But to us, what has happened this time is extremely symbolic. UNCDF is United Nations agency, and then USADF is US agency. In the past, we've had successful partnerships with UNDP, with the European Union, with the ICRC, etc. But this is the first time we're breaking into America, because to us it's very critical, very important that the relationship between the West and Africa should, in the 21st century, be reimagined, redefined. And the way of the nature of the partnership or relationship before should change. Aid is good, but in the 21st century, aid should be more catalytic for it to be sustainable and for it to create the desired impact. We don't want to have people who will be beggars forever. We don't want to have people who depend on handout forever. We want to create self-reliance and independence. And that is what we preach at the Elumelu Foundation. And that is the kind of partnership we're signing now, to say, listen, let's come together. Let's have a strong coalition for the development of Africa through entrepreneurship. Because it's time-tested. We know how we've done it several times since 2010. And we can see the progress. We can see over 400,000 jobs created. We can see the significant revenue improvement by these entrepreneurs who pay revenue to their countries. So in terms of employment, in terms of revenue generation, in terms of even being self-reliant on their own. And the people who give you $5,000 non-refund, those that succeed, they don't come back again. If anything, they want to scale to the next level, so they need different level of capital. So that is the nature of the partnership we preach. We're happy that the US is embracing it. And so it's significant, not just because of the money. $20 million is huge, but not quite. We've done bigger things. But just that it's the beginning of greater things to come. And again, signaling to the rest of the world, and especially our friends in this part of the world, that there's a new way to give in Africa that creates self-reliance, and that we have boots on ground. Those who are time-tested approaches to the new way, and that there's time to partner with us so that we can all make a difference. And by the way, we don't even say it must be the Elumelu Foundation alone. No. Whoever. But what we're saying is, let us redefine the way we help assist. If we want to assist, let's engage in a different way, a way that must help us ensure that the beneficiaries today will not remain beneficiaries in 10 years' time. We want them to be independent and to also help create more opportunities for others.
I am curious with the partnerships and how you've been navigating them. What have been like the biggest challenges since it sounds like the one that we're having now with the U.S. is such a big, a historic moment. Can you speak on some of the challenges with building partnerships with international organizations?
No, the key challenge is getting people to understand change in approach. I wouldn't call it a challenge per se, but it's like a paradigm shift. When you're moving in that fashion, it takes a bit of time for people to understand. And that is why we're happy that people are embracing it gradually. That, if you're used to every year budget $1 million, $100 million for Africa, you have international consultants who take half of that, and what gets to the last mile is even less than 30%. It's a whole industry. It takes time to change because we're not seeing a new team that is saying, guys, no, forget it. We are in Africa. We know our ways around Africa. We know what the requirements are in Africa. We know how to calculate, measure the impact in a way that aligns with our people's aspirations for a better living. Come to us. And maximum, maybe 5 to 8, 9, 10% is what's lost in the administrative processes. And so 90% gets to the end desired beneficiaries, and not like 30% because of the slew of the ecosystem of international consultants who feed off this. It doesn't come so fast. It takes time. But the truth is, there's progress. People are listening. And again, I want to commend key early adopters like United Nations Development Program. My good friend Hakim has been wonderful. He got it very quickly. ICRC, they were the first partners. International Red Cross, first partners. Then, of course, European Union came big. Last year, the European Union supported 3,600 young African women ahead of. So the world is listening. This is a new intervention, a new way of developing Africa. That's what we preach. That's our commitment to our people, a practical demonstration of the fact that we know from experience, from our own life story, that I know today in our group, we have over 30,000 people in our employment across Africa who pay taxes. And we do, look at the fallout, what we do at the Elumelu Foundation. The money is from the profit that we make. So we have seen what one person, a successful entrepreneur in Africa, can do. So we need millions. A continent of 1.3 billion people. We need to have some, let's even say 10 million very successful. The continent will change. So entrepreneurship is to us one of the time-tested ways of developing the continent. And the more we get people to invest in young entrepreneurs on the continent, and the more those young entrepreneurs don't disappoint us by succeeding, the better will be the future of our continent.
Agreed, agreed. You've invested a lot in entrepreneurial community, obviously through TEF. I'm curious what sectors you're excited about, what industries, what verticals are you most excited about now?
We are sector agnostic as a foundation, but we do have partners who are interested in specific areas: the green economy, technology, women, fashion, creative sector. So, but for us as a foundation, we're sector agnostic. We just leave it open because you never can tell. Today, the world has embraced technology. When Steve Jobs started, I keep going back to that great man, because when he started, let's even look at Google or Facebook. Seemingly casual things, but it's changed the world today. Even Zoom, we use for communication. So you never can tell. The best thing just to us, the development of Africa, we just want our young, talented Africans who are energetic, ambitious, intelligent, who want to succeed, who want to give them opportunity, any sector.
Okay, so you're passionate about all sectors. This is going to be our final question. So those who have questions in the audience will be coming to you soon. But so many of us here have actually had the opportunity to leave the continent to pursue our personal and professional goals at Columbia. What do you think our role is as Africans in diaspora in making sure that youth empowerment and economic development is progressing? And for those who are enthusiastic about the opportunities in Africa, how can they participate as well?
I like this question, because most times Africans in diaspora, at times we don't see ourselves as Africans again. And I just don't understand why people want not to identify with their origin and their root. I say to my children, one is schooling in the US here, one is in the UK, and I say to them, you're Nigerians, you're Africans. Yeah, Daddy, I say, I need to drum it in your head. So don't go there and say, originally I was from. So no, you're from. you're Africans. That's number one. Why do I say this? I think you all in diaspora have a strong voice. You can hold our leadership accountable. There's lack of accountability on the continent. I want you guys, let's hold our leadership accountable, let them, so that they change. I want to see positive change in that. That, to me, number. Number two is also remember that this South African music, wherever you are, don't forget the root or where you come, what took you there. So let's remember that we're Africans, and let's, in our own way, knowledge sharing, volunteering, whatever it is, let everybody be involved in making sure that we lift Africa out of poverty. No one but us in the 21st century will develop Africa. So a realization of that is very critical. And I want our young ones who are in diaspora, who are seeking, of course, for understandably, either education or good jobs, just remember when you come and see how you can be involved in both civil society. Anything. Accountability is critical. Accountability makes the difference in life. So if there's one word I want to leave with, yes, it is that we should hold our leaders accountable. And personally, I like to see you succeed, because your success is also success for Africa. When I see young Africans who have succeeded, it gives me excitement. I'm very happy to see that, because first, it helps to shine light on Africa in a positive sense. And two, it helps to encourage and inspire others to say, this person is this, from this background, this modest style. I will aspire to be at that same level even more. So you're role models for Africa. So hold that role very well.
Thank you. Are there any questions in the audience?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm right here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here.
They made me focus on just this. Let me turn to this now.
And I've been really excited to see you here because I'm from East Africa, the train with East Africa. And in 2015, I was part of the first set of people funded by Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Are you serious? Stand up, let me see you. Wow, you're the 2015 set.
2015 sets, yes.
What do you do now? Anyway, go on. What do you do now? Yes.
So I run an agri-tech company for farmers. We run an e-commerce site like Amazon.
Wow.
But our customers are farmers, and
Wow.
the products that we have are agricultural products like planters, harvesters, pesticides, and chemicals. We deliver those things to farmers across Nigeria, but we are based in Ibadan. I can proudly say that $5,000 was given to us in 2015. Today, that is less than our monthly salary.
Wow.
And that's without external investment so far. We've just been multiplying what was given to us 5 years ago. Right now, we pay about 50 staff. And we
You have 50 staff now?
50 staff now, yes. And we serve tens of thousands of farmers across Nigeria.
Wow.
That's just really very grateful. Thank you very much for your support. I'm very excited to see you. Very excited. So 2 things. I have a point of curiosity first. Amongst the people that have been funded by the foundation, which sector would you say has performed better over the last couple of years? Is it agriculture? Is it fashion? Is it tech? Which one has performed better based on return on investment? That's one. Then my question is, for us now that have gone through the foundation many years ago, how do you want us to engage with the foundation going forward? What part do you want us to play?
Wow.
And how do you want us to engage with you going forward?
All right. So first is, your name?
My name is Ayo Oyedotun.
Ayo, I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And I want to say how very proud of you I am. For me, this is one of those moments. Like people ask me, surprised I didn't ask the question, but it was implied. People ask, why are you doing this? Why I'm doing this, your story, what you just shared here, is the motivation to see, 50 people in your employment, and look at all the things, if that direct employment and the 10,000 farmers across Nigeria that you're supporting, if we could do more of this, Nigeria is a 200 million people country. If we could have like 1 million like this, to change the face of that country. 1 million like this, 1 million 50 times, that's 50 million jobs. Things will change. And this is what I say to people, there's no greater satisfaction than what just happened here. So I wish you success, and we'll continue to stay in touch. Your first question, I think most sectors, but I think agriculture has done very, 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 very well. Across Africa, agriculture has done very well. Technology has also done well, but I think agriculture should be the highest. Both in Nigeria, East Africa, Uganda, almost everywhere, agriculture, and it actually goes to portray the fact that agriculture is the mainstay of our economy. And if we want to fix unemployment situation in Africa, we must prioritize that sector too. Very, very important. And to your last question, very humbling, and by the way, thanks for succeeding, because some don't also succeed. So your last question, we will note it, but we have, we've done 12 years now, so we have a strategy session coming up on the 7th to 10th of October in Abuja. I want to reimagine just the next 10 years for the Tony Elumelu Foundation. It would be nice if you're in Nigeria or be in Nigeria for you to give us a talk on your expectations, and the question you asked now, I will ask that question to you, that how do you want the beneficiaries of the Tony Elumelu Foundation to engage with the foundation, in propagating further and doing what the foundation stands for. So I would like if my people will get in touch with you But standing here, what I think you need to do, we would like you to do is, we want to, like mentors, we like someone like to be, you be a great mentor to others. So it would be nice to enroll for us to enlist you as a mentor to others. You know, I mean, they will learn a lot from you. One, you pass through the foundation, and two, you're succeeding in your area. So that'd be wonderful, wonderful. And I think to me that would be the big thing. But my people might have other ideas. So they will get in touch with you and let's interact more, and especially have you join us at the session. Even if you're not in the country, you can join us virtually and give us a 30-minute talk on what you think we should do more, how areas for improvement for the foundation. That would be appreciated. Well done, Ayo. Congratulations. Yes, someone said. Oh,
My name is Felicia Malongo. I am
who?
Felicia
Okay.
Malongo. I just graduated with my Master of Public Administration from Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. And for my master's, I did a thesis on the Renaissance and cultural awakening in Africa as a way to develop the economy, as a way to impact the youth, knowing that Africa has a high percentage of individuals under the age of 25. I thought that culture and Renaissance, in parallel to the Italian Renaissance, would be a good way to boost.
Sorry, I can't hear you very, very well. Yeah. Okay.
In parallel to the Italian Renaissance, would be able to boost the economy. So I had a question for you because I thought that your input or any investors like you would be fundamental for the movement. And my question is, how do you encourage large foundation and investors like yourself to create portfolios that include this? Nigeria is an example, but how can we do it across Africa?
I think you're speaking to an apostle of this. So first is wear my business hat. We operate in 20 African countries. That's business. So we don't just operate in Nigeria alone. And then wearing my philanthropy hat, we operate in all 54 African countries. We have beneficiaries across Africa. Every country, Seychelles, all the small, tiny countries in Africa, they all have their beneficiaries. So I believe so much that in the 21st century, we should have no boundaries to business, And the AFCTA, the Coordinated Free Trade Arrangement, also should help us to foster business integration, expansion across Africa, even though we still have some challenges. But again, this is where I say the private sector, if you have vibrant private sector on the continent, we'll work together to even bring down the barriers. Because if I have issues that affect my business, and I do have in some areas, I would engage with the policymakers, and chances are they would listen to me. And as they remove those obstacles, I won't be the only beneficiary. It will also rub off on others. And you have people who produce different products like cement in Africa. To move cement to the next country is a problem. And everyone working together to make sure that custom policies are harmonized across regions or regional economies. It helps everyone, not just that person, that company alone. It helps all of us. In our own area, so many things we've done in our business area. Some countries that visa was an issue to grant, we put pressure, and some started giving visa on arrival at the airport, to Africans. And we say to leaders, if we don't have freedom of movement of people, movement of goods, and payment simplification across the continent, how do we integrate as a continent? So our leaders are gradually beginning to listen. So how do you encourage that, if my question is right, is first, we need to lead by example. We need to show, we need to invest. Leaders private sector leaders, where opportunity exists, where for us, if you grow scale, it's best you leverage your scale across geographies. So we need private sector to succeed for that to happen. Our leaders should embrace and support them, harmonize policies so that we just want Africa to develop, and intra-Africa business is very important to that development. So if I heard you very well, that is the answer. Did that address, is that what you were asking?
Yes, it did partially address it, but I think also in my thesis, it was about the Renaissance of Africa, using art and culture.
The Renaissance of Africa.
Yes, using art and culture to create a positive identity.
Okay, using art and culture. No,
yes.
Anyway, so I think today, a lady entered my room, the housekeeper came into my room this morning. I was playing music. When I exercise, I play Amapiano, Afrobeat. So I was playing, and the lady started just nodding. I said, "What, do you know the song?" I was playing one of these. I think I was playing. I play Harmonize. Do you can? So the lady said, "I said, you know?" She said, "Yeah, does she know the song?" I said, "You listen to Nigerian African songs?" She said, "Yes." And I said, and she went to. He said, "There are some African ladies who work in this hotel. They're always making us to dance to it." So you see, at some level, culture, music, entertainment, lifestyle, all those things bring us together. And you don't even know where the person is from, whether they're from Nigeria or Togo, etc. Everyone sees them. The truth is, business, to a large extent, business, music, art, culture, entertainment, they all help to bring Africa together, and we all have a role to play. Plus, I believe you heard when I talked about my children, I said that everyone should be proud also of their heritage, proud of who they are, proud of where they come from. And we do have, the glass is half full, we do have our challenges. You see people embarrass the continent, but you also see good people who do great things. So listen, I always say, when people say to me in some countries, that they have criminals, I say, wait, if you have a country of 200 million people, not that it's tolerable, and 1,000 people behave in a bad way, how do you now use that to just generalize that everyone is bad? I carry a green passport, a Nigerian green passport, and proudly so too. And I hold my head high everywhere because I'm Nigerian, born, bred there. And there's nothing my friends from any other part of the world can do that I don't think I can do, or where they will stand I cannot. So the fact that we have challenges does not mean that all of us should be painted in that same light. Growing up and reading Guinness Book of Records, those days they used to say that in New York, every 4 minutes or 4 seconds, someone is assassinated. Those days. Does that make New York an unsafe place for us to visit and enjoy ourselves? We do have challenges. So let's be also proud of our heritage, proud of who we are. And collectively, we can change the narrative, change the characterization, and get our people to do the right thing, because they too must do the right thing so that we have a better society.
Thank you.
I think we have room for one more question.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Plus maybe another lady, so we'll balance.
Oh, yes.
Any other lady want to? Okay, she's there.
Okay.
So one there.
Okay.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for coming to Columbia Business School. My name is Owen Odige.
Your name is who?
Owen Odige.
Owen.
And so I'm a third year, I'm a dual degree student at the business school and the public policy school. Last year I served as the student body president here, and this year I'm one of the co-chairs for the Columbia Africa Conference. And so just a quick plug, October 20th to 29th, we'd love to have you, please come. But, and just one shout out, I know you, I believe you grew up in Edo State. My family's Edo as well, grew up in Benin City. So just really proud to see somebody from, the Edo State area Delta State area coming out and doing great things. So thank you.
As I were here.
So I think my
I can't
question,
speak this.
my quick question was kind of what we talked, or kind of what you guys talked about is just, I think in this room there's a lot of sons of African parents or African immigrants, right? And like now we've really all kind of either based a life here in the UK or the USA. How do we really optimize having access to both worlds and really thinking about what we can do as like kind of this future generation now? Because like many people here, like my parents live in Nigeria now, but I have spent almost my entire life.
Are you Nigerian?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
I'm from
not
Nigeria.
originally. You're Nigerian.
No, but I just think I think a big thing that we all try to think about is how do we really bridge these worlds together and optimize? Because like right now we're in New York, and culturally Afrobeats is massive here in New York. Like it runs most of the nightlife.
My room today.
Yeah. But how do we then think about it past culture, right? How do we start thinking about it economically and really creating ways that we can actually significantly create economic growth here and back home, whether that's Nigeria, Ghana, whatever other country we're from. So that's kind of.
But I must say that you asked a question, also you lifelong question about. I think this is a good moment for Africa, to hear young Africans appear excited and eager to contribute to the economic development of the continent. That's very, very good. As I said to her, for you guys first, I'd like everyone to be successful in what they do, because the development of Africa is not just material. Even in terms of characterization, mindset, perception. Perception has brand equity. If people see a continent, the continent is good, has a lot of people are succeeding, people are good, and that, their propensity to invest in that kind of environment will be high. So if you succeed, not you, everyone, all Africans in diaspora, success, good example, be disciplined, and then holding, again, leaders accountable on the continent. Today they say the pen is mightier than the sword. So you're here, but we live in a global village. It's digitalized. Everyone, we're all linked one way or the other. What happens in New York? Well, I'm here. I'm sure people in Nigeria are watching what's going on here. So we need to have a strong voice. Let's hold our leaders accountable. But first, let's seek equity with clean hands. Let us on our own be successful in everything, anything, not just financial success, anything, academic success, everything we do, let's show good example. Such seemingly little, but quite significant ways will help in helping to change the narrative, helping to develop our continent. And then you become role models. The younger ones in Africa will see you the way you're succeeding. If you hear Amina Mohammed today, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala today, people are inspired by these great ladies of African descent that, if they got, okay, there's hope that we too can get there. So we need such inspiration to also come. They say it's a way of succeeding, of developing, playing your own role in developing the continent.
Hi, I almost forgot my question. My name is Toke. I'm a first-year student. And prior to this, I was working at Dalberg Advisors. So
Dalberg?
Yeah, Dalberg. So, obviously, we're working with different multilateral institutions to come up with sustainable solutions and on different critical issues, so specifically youth unemployment. So as you were speaking, I was trying to formulate the question in my head, so I hope this is clear. So how, in your place of power and position, how would you advise maybe young entrepreneurs in Africa, Nigeria, everywhere in Africa, actually, not just Nigeria, to come up with solutions that empower Nigeria or their country, whether it's Ghana or anywhere else in Africa, and then make that solution global so that it's not just restricted to the populace in Africa who may not be able to afford like specific solutions that they render?
I think it's a very valid question, but I believe in certain philosophies I would like to share here. One is what they call baby steps. Taking things pacing yourself one step at a time. I believe in it. Two is, I believe that the journey of a mile starts with one step. Okay? In my business career, when we took over a distressed bank, when we started Standard Chartered in 1997, we wanted to conquer the world, but we knew we needed to grow in phases. So we came up with what we call the three-tier strategic intent. First tier strategic intent, we put time frame and milestone. Second tier strategic intent, we put time frame and milestone. And third tier strategic intent, we put time frame, milestone. So as we accomplish first, it encouraged us to move to the second one. Okay, and as we accomplish the second, encouraged us to also move to the third, and we put time frame. We said, in 10 years, I want to be one of the top three banks in Nigeria. Second tier intent was I want to be one of the top 10 banks, year 7. And the first tier intent was I want to be a viable bank, because it was distress first. So we started with that, achieved that viability, we moved to the next one, and moved to the third one. And by year 8 or 8.5, we had accomplished the three-tier strategic intent. But if we started by saying we want to be this without those intents or those milestones and time frame, we wouldn't have. So my advice for entrepreneurs is, I am a strong believer, start small and grow big. So the entrepreneur that wants to serve Africa, start first from where you are and do it, master it, and scale. Today, United Bank for Africa operates in 20 African countries, but we started in Nigeria. We started as a distressed bank. Today, United Bank for Africa operates in Paris, London, Dubai, and is the only African bank that is deposit-taking bank in all of United States of America, regulated by a federal regulation. So we did not start the one that we want to do. We started one step, two steps. So my advice to young African entrepreneurs, start small, acquire the expertise, make mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. If we were on a global scale, scene, when we started with the mistake, we would have been out today. So start small, make mistakes, learn from it, and fortify and move on. So they can, but let them keep that audacity, that desire, that ambition alive, for realizing that they need to start small and gradually move up to that level. And yes, I think that African entrepreneurs should see all of Africa as their market, and not just a geographical confined location like Nigeria, Ghana, etc. All of Africa. But let them know that they have to start small and scale up. So they can say first in Ghana, then later in the ECOWAS sub-region, and third, maybe all of Africa. And when they get there, they re-strategize. So when we finish we remember our third tier strategy intent, which was like the biggest then to us, was to be one of the top 3 banks in Nigeria. When we got there in 2005, we had to recalibrate. So what next? So we decided again, lead in Nigeria, be one of the leading banks in Africa, and have global presence. So that global presence, we're in New York, we're in London, we're in Paris, we're in Dubai, global presence. Lead in Africa, operation in 20 African countries, with over 36 million customers across Africa, and over 1,000 branches across Africa. Lead in Nigeria, of course, in the bag. So those are things, but remember, in all of these things, one step first. Because at times when you think too big from the onset, you might be discouraged. You might be discouraged.
Thank you. Do you have time for?
Okay, we can take 1 and 2. That's a lady, right?
Yes.
And then, yeah, we'll take these 2, then we can move. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Tony. It's good to meet you here. My name is Shakirat. I've spent the last 4 years in the Nigerian investment banking space. In fact, I worked at one of your subsidiary firms, United Capital, right after college. Have been living in Nigeria all my life, and I just came here for my MBA at Columbia last August. I'm a first-year student. Yeah. So one of the things I'm looking to do with my career is to provide solutions for small and medium-scale enterprises across Africa. I know you have footprint across Africa. You're more familiar with the regulatory landscape there for the banking space. So what advice would you give me on navigating the regulatory landscape across different African countries, starting from Nigeria, which has a very, very interesting regulatory space in the banking space, I'm sure, as you know. So what advice would you give me to get started on that?
I think the advice I would give is when you're in a regulated business, having compliance becomes extremely important. And so I'll tell you briefly, when we started, it was, you have to engage with regulators and share your aspirations, share your journey, what you want to accomplish. Regulators can be very skeptical, so please understand that. I remember when we wrote first time to Central Bank about our intent to take over a digital bank, the then director of First Bank, he wrote bogus, this bogus, some bogus claim or bogus ignore, but we kept engaging. So don't be deterred, okay? If you know what you want to accomplish, engage and engage and engage. Progressively, they will listen to you. And then, but for me, I've seen that regulators want operators to come in. That's why they're against monopoly. But at the same time, they would want operators who will not rock the sector. So if you engage with regulator and let them know what you want to achieve, in the long run, they will listen to you. Sorry, I'm being brief because I think that's the last. Okay.
Hi, my name is Patrick Beckley. I'm an environmental engineer at the Columbia Climate School, and I'm from Freetown, Sierra Leone. I was also a participant in the TEF program this year.
You're a participant?
Yeah, I was in the fall, so I really appreciate that opportunity. One thing that I did notice about the program was how well you were able to connect us digitally, and just seeing other entrepreneurs from other parts of Africa and in the diaspora, like digital. But I would say one of the biggest issues as an African entrepreneur is logistics, the physical component of like actually being able to connect back in Freetown or in other places in other parts of the continent. So what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome logistically with your own business initiatives? And is that a space that you're looking at? Like, or could we expect like a TEF flight service or, a plane in the future? I would love to hear your comments about that.
Well, good to meet you, and good luck on your entrepreneurship journey. I think we do have a lot of infrastructure and institutional voice and rigidities on the continent. And talking about what government should do, helping us to alleviate such rigidities will orchestrate and drive growth on the continent, will help people like you and others here to succeed as entrepreneurs. So it's a challenge for all of us, and something we preach, and beyond preaching, something we do. So in our group, we have Transcorp, Transnational Corporation of Nigeria. Transcorp has the highest electric generating capacity in Nigeria, 2,000 megawatts, but we do about 600, 700 megawatts now because of gas limitation, which we're also trying to overcome. That investment is good for profitability, but more importantly, it also helps to address the single chronic biggest problem that's affecting Africa development, that's access to electricity. So we try to highlight some of these things, but in addition to highlighting, we also try to do something to show. And the good thing is the world is listening. People also want to identify or support Africa in the area of this logistics, infrastructure, etc. Transportation, to fly from Lagos to Freetown or other place can be stifling, very difficult. And how can you develop a continent? How can you encourage intra-Africa business or trade if our people cannot move across borders easily? So those are challenges we need to overcome. And those are things we talk to our partners and friends of Africa that there are opportunities here, opportunities there. You can look at this. Africa is big, and you can make the kind of returns on investment that you don't make elsewhere. So that's why my appeal to everyone, we should create the right reputation, image for Africa, so people would like to come to invest in Africa. A situation where our young ones come back home to work in Africa, and due to insecurity or difficult hostile operating environment, they go back. It's not good. When they go back, it leaves bad taste, and it doesn't encourage. So there's a lot for us to do as private sector leaders, a lot to do as public sector leaders to make sure we attract the right investment and create the right environment for our people to succeed.
Thank you all for your questions, and thank you. To continue the conversation, for those who did not get the opportunity to get their questions asked, we do have the 19th Annual Columbia Africa Business Conference. That's going to be October 28th and 29th, so feel free to keep an eye out for that. Again, it's next month, the 28th and the 29th. And thank you today for actually being here and actually answering our questions today and talking a little bit more about African development.
Thank you, Jama.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.